You know, one of the biggest lies we've been sold, and I do mean sold, is this myth that motivation is the secret sauce to success. Everywhere you look, the world is telling you, you just got to stay motivated. You just need to find your spark. You just need to wake up inspired. But let me ask you something. Have you ever met a construction worker who only shows up on the days he feels like building? Have you ever seen a farmer who only sows his seeds on the days the sun is shining and his emotions are aligned? Of course not, because real work, the kind that moves the needle, the kind that changes lives, the kind that builds empires, it doesn't wait on your feelings to cooperate. I learned this the hard way. There was a time in my life when I thought the reason I wasn't succeeding was because I wasn't motivated enough. I thought there was some secret playlist, some magic YouTube video, some perfect morning routine that would make me feel like working. And you know what? Sometimes I did feel motivated for an hour, maybe a day, maybe even a week, but eventually the feeling always left. Because that's what motivation does. It's a fair weather friend. It'll be right there clapping for you when life is easy, when things are exciting, when success seems certain. But the minute life throws you a curveball, motivation goes ghost. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline shows up when it's cold. Discipline shows up when it's lonely. Discipline shows up when your bank account is empty and your phone isn't ringing. Discipline is the invisible bridge between where you are right now and where you want to be. I remember one time when I was struggling, flat broke. My car was broken down, my bills were stacked high on the kitchen table, and I was sitting there thinking, man, I just don't feel like doing anything today. And then this little voice whispered, you don't have the luxury of feelings when your family is depending on you. That was the day I stopped negotiating with myself. I stopped giving my emotions a vote in the decisions that would determine my future. I made a new rule. Feelings are passengers, not the driver. And when you embrace that, when you lock into that mindset, something shifts. You stop waiting for the right moment and you start creating it. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and you start producing results no matter the conditions. That's when success starts bending in your direction. See, the difference between the person who wins in life and the person who just wishes they did isn't talent, isn't luck, isn't even intelligence. It's the ability to do the work, especially when you don't feel like it. It's the willingness to wake up and show up even on the days when every fiber of your being is telling you to stay in bed. That's how you build a business. That's how you build a future. That's how you become the person you were designed to be. Not by chasing motivation, but by marrying yourself to discipline. Because once you understand that motivation is optional, but action is mandatory, your life will never be the same. Most people walk around thinking their feelings have to give them permission before they can take action. They've been taught that if they don't feel ready, they're not ready. If they don't feel excited, it's not time to move. If they don't feel motivated, they shouldn't bother. Let me tell you something. Feelings are not the foundation of success. Decisions are. When you look at the most successful people on the planet, the people who build wealth, create impact, leave legacies, you'll find one thing in common. They don't let feelings run their lives. They let decisions dictate their actions. The difference between average and exceptional isn't found in the days when everything is easy. It's found in the days when everything is hard and you decide to move forward anyway. I remember a season in my life where nothing looked like success. My bank account didn't say success. My circumstances didn't say success. My emotions definitely didn't say success, but I learned something powerful. You don't have to feel like a success to start acting like one. You don't have to feel wealthy to start making decisions like a wealthy person. You don't have to feel motivated to move forward. You just have to decide. The problem is most people confuse emotion with direction. But emotions are weather and decisions are architecture. You don't build your house based on the weather that day. You build your house based on the blueprint you've committed to. If the weather's bad, you still build. If the weather's great, you build. If it's windy, you hold your ground and you build. That's what winners do. They don't ask themselves, do I feel like doing it today? They ask, Did I decide that this is who I am and what I'm going to do? Because once the decision is made, the debate is over. You see, the power isn't in how you feel. The power is in what you've decided, because decisions create direction, and direction creates destiny. Think about this. When you decided to learn how to walk as a baby, you didn't quit every time you fell. You didn't say, I'm just not feeling it today. I fell too many times. Maybe I'm not cut out for this walking thing. No. You decided, even if you didn't consciously know it, you decided, I'm going to walk. And you got up every time you fell until walking became second nature. And it's the same in business, in relationships, in health, in wealth, and in personal growth. The decision has to come first. You don't wait for life to hand you the perfect moment. You decide to create the moment. When you train your mind to obey your decisions instead of your emotions, you become dangerous, because now you're not just acting when it's easy, you're acting even when it's hard. And that, my friend, is where real transformation happens. Decisions move the needle. Decisions shape the future. Decisions turn dreams into reality, and they do it long before your feelings ever catch up. So when the world tells you to wait for the right moment or the right feeling, you remind yourself feelings are fleeting, but decisions are forever. Once you decide, the work begins and the feelings will follow. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned on the road to success is this: your environment is either setting you up to win or silently setting you up to fail. There's no neutral ground. Your environment is shaping your thoughts, your actions, your habits, even when you don't notice it. And most people, they're losing not because they aren't capable, not because they aren't smart, not because they don't have talent, but because they've built their lives inside an environment that's hostile to growth. Let me paint the picture for you. If you plant a seed, the seed isn't going to grow just because it wants to. It can have all the potential in the world, but if the soil is bad, if the light is weak, if the water is missing, that seed will wither. The problem wasn't the seed, the problem was the environment. And the same is true for you. You can have all the ambition, all the goals, all the desire to change your life. But if you surround yourself with people who talk small, think small, dream small, and live small, you will eventually shrink to fit the room you're in. I've seen it over and over again. People with big visions stuck in environments that suffocate those visions before they even have a chance to grow. When I was younger, I didn't understand this. I thought hard work alone would carry me. I thought grit and grind would be enough. But no matter how hard I pushed, every time I returned to the same conversations with the same people in the same places, all that energy started leaking out. I was working hard, but the soil I was planted in wasn't feeding me. It was draining me. It wasn't until I changed my environment that everything started to shift. I started putting myself in rooms where I wasn't the smartest one in the room. I surrounded myself with people who were already operating at the level I wanted to reach. And you know what happened? I stopped thinking about what was possible and started seeing it. The truth is, success isn't contagious, but proximity to it will change your expectations. When you see ordinary people doing extraordinary things, you stop making excuses for yourself. When you hear the conversations of people who think in terms of abundance instead of limitation, your own thinking starts to stretch. When your environment is designed for growth, growth becomes the only option. Most people don't fail because they set their goals too high and miss. They fail because they set their environment too low and hit. You've got to choose an environment that makes excellence feel normal. An environment where your work ethic is sharpened, not softened. An environment where your dreams are fueled, not mocked. An environment that stretches you until growth becomes automatic. And sometimes it's not just the people, sometimes it's your habits, your spaces, your inputs. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you feeding your mind? Because if your environment isn't designed to elevate you, it will slowly erode you. Your future is not just a product of your effort, it's a product of your surroundings. You can't expect to produce world-class results in a comfort zone designed for mediocrity. You've got to audit your environment and make a decision. Is this place making me better, or is it slowly making me bitter? Is it pulling me forward or holding me back? Because once you get your environment right, success stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like a natural byproduct. You grow into it because you planted yourself in the right place. Here's something most people don't want to hear, but I'm going to give it to you straight. Life is going to be painful either way. There's no path you can take, no shortcut you can find, no secret formula that will let you avoid pain altogether. The question isn't whether or not you'll experience pain. The question is which kind you're willing to choose. Because there are only two kinds of pain in this life, the pain of effort or the pain of regret. One lasts for a moment, the other lasts a lifetime. The pain of effort is the price you pay to grow, to build, to stretch yourself beyond what you thought you could do. It's the early mornings when the bed is warm and the world is quiet, but you roll out anyway. It's the long nights when your body is tired, but your vision is still awake. It's showing up for your business, your dreams, your goals, even when no one is watching and no one is clapping, because you know deep down that the only way to break through is to push through. But the pain of regret, that's a whole different monster. That pain shows up later, but it cuts deeper. It shows up when the opportunity is long gone. It shows up when the time has passed and you realize you didn't do what you could have done, didn't become who you could have become, didn't build what you could have built. The pain of regret whispers to you at night when the world is quiet, and all you have left is the thought, I should have. And let me tell you, I felt both. I felt the pain of effort dragging myself to work when I was broke, tired, and discouraged. I felt the pain of effort when I had to sacrifice my comfort, when I had to learn new skills that made my head hurt, when I had to hear no more times than I wanted but still kept knocking. But the pain of effort builds something in you. It builds strength, it builds confidence, it builds character, it builds resilience, and most importantly, it builds results. But the pain of regret, I remember one time in my life standing in front of a closed door, realizing I had missed my moment. Realizing that while I was waiting for the right time, the time had passed. That kind of pain doesn't sharpen you, it haunts you. That's why I tell people all the time, if you're going to hurt anyway, you might as well hurt for something. You might as well choose the pain that leads to purpose. The pain that stretches you into a stronger version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, hard work might break a sweat, but regret breaks your heart. Every day you wake up, you get to decide which pain you're going to feel. You can choose the pain of pushing through, the pain of discipline, the pain of focus, the pain of persistence, or you can choose the pain of looking back, wishing you had started, wishing you had stuck with it, wishing you hadn't quit. Success demands payment up front, and the currency is effort. But the good news is once you've paid the price, you get to enjoy the reward. Regret, on the other hand, makes you pay over and over again with nothing to show for it but what ifs and empty promises to yourself. So choose wisely. Pain isn't optional, but progress is. The pain of effort will shape your future. The pain of regret will steal it. One of the biggest reasons people never reach their goals isn't because they don't have talent. It's not because they don't have the right ideas or the right connections. It's because they don't stay consistent long enough for the breakthrough to show up. Consistency is the great separator between those who wish for success and those who actually experience it. You see, most people start strong when the idea is fresh, when the excitement is high, when the vision is clear. Everybody shows up in the beginning. They show up on day 1, they show up on day 2, but by day 10, by day 20, by day 30, when the emotion has worn off and the results still haven't caught up, that's when most people quit. That's when most people retreat back to the comfort zone. That's when they decide it's too hard or not working or maybe it wasn't meant to be. But the people who win, the people who rise, they understand something the world overlooks. Success isn't an event. success is a process. And the key ingredient in that process is consistency. I remember when I first started out, there were days I wanted to quit, days the phone didn't ring, days no one said yes, days it felt like I was pushing a mountain that wasn't moving an inch. But I learned the secret: the results don't show up right away. The results show up for those who refuse to stop. I realized that consistency isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about showing up when it's boring, when it's frustrating, when it's lonely, when it feels like it's not working. Think about it. You don't go to the gym one time and walk out with a six-pack. You don't plant a seed one morning and expect to harvest the fruit that evening. Growth in any area of life is the product of repeated effort over time. Consistency is what compounds your actions into results. And the beauty of consistency is this: it doesn't require brilliance, it doesn't require perfection, it just requires commitment. It's not about how fast you start, it's about how long you're willing to stay in the game. Because over time, the person who just refuses to quit always outruns the person who's waiting for the perfect conditions. When you stay consistent, even when the progress feels slow, even when the rewards seem small, you are building momentum. You are laying brick by brick the foundation of the future you want. And the funny thing about momentum is at first it feels like nothing's moving, but once it kicks in, it'll carry you further than you ever imagined. I always tell people the breakthrough doesn't go to the most talented, it goes to the most consistent. The person who decided, I'm not going to stop showing up until I win. The person who said, I'll outlast the discomfort. The person who kept swinging the axe until the tree finally fell. Because success doesn't belong to the person who tries, it belongs to the person who keeps trying. Day in, day out, rain or shine, tired or energized, excited or discouraged. Consistency is the habit that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. And the best part, once you become consistent, once you wire it into your identity, it becomes automatic. It stops being a decision and starts being a part of who you are. And that, my friend, is when you become unstoppable. Most people go through life thinking the finish line is the hard part. They believe that once success shows up, once the business starts growing, once the bank account starts filling, once the opportunities start rolling in, that's when life gets easier. But let me tell you something that will flip your perspective. Success doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. Every single level you reach in life will demand a new, sharper, stronger, more disciplined version of you. Growth isn't a one-time event, it's a constant evolution. Success isn't a destination, it's a moving target. The moment you think you've made it, life will introduce you to a brand new mountain to climb. And if you're not ready, if you haven't built the mindset, the work ethic, and the resilience, you'll slip right back to where you started, sometimes even further. I learned this early on, the hard way. There was a season where I thought once I hit a certain income level, once the contracts were signed and the checks started clearing, I could relax. I thought I'd finally arrived. But success isn't a resting place. Success is a responsibility. The higher you climb, the greater the weight you have to carry. And if you haven't trained yourself to handle it, success will crush you instead of elevate you. That's why the work you do before the breakthrough is so important. The habits you build when nobody's watching. The discipline you develop when the rewards are still invisible. The mindset you sharpen when the world hasn't given you the applause yet. That's the preparation for the moment when success finally knocks, because when it does, you won't rise to the occasion, you'll fall to the level of your preparation. Success is not for the lucky, it's for the ready. And readiness doesn't happen in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows. It's built on the days when no one is checking for you, but you're still checking in with your goals. It's built on the mornings you wake up and choose to stick to the process, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And when success comes, you'll realize something powerful. The same habits that got you there are the ones that will keep you there. The same discipline that moved you from broke to breakthrough is the discipline that will move you from success to significance. Success isn't the end of the journey, It's just the beginning of a new chapter, a new challenge, a new stretch. And the people who endure, the people who grow beyond one win, are the ones who understand this. It's not about arriving, it's about becoming. You don't work hard just to get the reward. You work hard to become the kind of person who can handle the reward, because if the dream is bigger than your discipline, the dream will destroy you. But if your discipline is bigger than your dream, you'll not only reach your goals, you'll sustain them, you'll multiply them, you'll lead others to them, and that's when you start living a life that creates impact, not just income. Because the work doesn't stop when success shows up. That's when the real work begins. Most people have no idea how powerful their own words are. They speak about their life, their future, and their potential like it's out of their hands, like success is something that just happens to other people. But the truth is, the words you speak are the blueprint for the life you build. Long before your hands ever shape your reality, your mouth lays the foundation. If you talk about struggle, you'll live in struggle. If you talk about failure, you'll start expecting failure. If you talk about being stuck, you'll start settling for being stuck. And on the other hand, if you talk about growth, if you talk about progress, if you speak success, even when your circumstances don't reflect it yet, you are planting the seeds for the future you want. I remember when I was broke, when I had every excuse in the world to call myself defeated, when I could have opened my mouth and declared failure over my life. I could have said, it's too hard, I'll never make it, people like me don't win, but I refused. I decided to speak as if the success I wanted was already mine. I spoke abundance in the middle of lack. I spoke strength in the middle of weakness. I spoke victory in the middle of what looked like defeat. And you know what happened? My mind started to shift. My actions started to shift. My environment started to shift. Because the words you speak don't just describe your reality, they shape it. Your brain is always listening to the sound of your own voice. Your heart is always following the direction of your confession. Your life is always moving toward the words you declare with the most consistency. If you want to see change on the outside, you've got to start by changing the narrative on the inside. When you speak with power, you move with power. When you declare your goals out loud, your mind starts looking for ways to make them happen. When you start saying, I'm built for this, I will figure it out, this is just the beginning, not the end, something inside you gets activated. You start looking at problems differently. You start facing fear differently. You start treating obstacles like training instead of torture. And this is the difference between people who stay stuck and people who rise. The stuck person lets their situation do all the talking. The person who rises makes sure their vision is the loudest voice in the room, even if the room is empty. So be careful what you say about yourself, about your dreams, about your future. Speak as if you believe it even before you see it. Speak as if it's on the way, even if it's not in your hands yet. Because the words you speak today are the future you'll be living tomorrow.